So imagine it's early 2026 and an algorithm just wrote a jazz solo.
Right, and not just any solo. We're talking about one that critics literally described as having um, raw human ache.
Yeah, raw human ache, which is just, it's wild. Veteran musicians could not distinguish it from a lost recording of some mid-century master.
Totally indistinguishable.
Right. And here's the really crazy part. That exact same underlying mathematical architecture, that same code, just diagnosed a stage 1 cellular anomaly on an MRI.
An anomaly that was completely invisible to the naked eye of a board-certified doctor.
Exactly. So today we are unpacking a reality where code doesn't just automate our spreadsheets anymore. It fundamentally understands our physical bodies, our emotional resonance, and our baseline desires way better than we do.
Yeah, we're looking at a massive transition here. It's moving from generative novelty, which is fun, to just total infrastructural dominance.
Which is saying a lot, considering where we were just a little while ago.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the conversations we had even a year ago about AI writing passable emails or generating those kind of surreal, weird artworks, it feels almost quaint now.
Totally quaint.
Because the systems surfacing in the current landscape, they're infiltrating the absolute bedrock of how human society operates.
Which is exactly why we are doing this today. So welcome to the deep dive. We built this custom analysis specifically for you, our dedicated learner.
That's right.
We know you already follow the tech space. You aren't looking for some beginner's guide to neural networks. You are here to really understand the implications of the newly surfaced AI News Digest dated March 29th, 2026.
A really dense, fascinating document.
Oh, incredibly dense. So our mission today is to extract the core insights from this document and explore how advanced machine learning is just aggressively altering 3 highly distinct pillars of human society.
Right. Our physical health, our creative expression, and corporate strategy.
Yeah.
And honestly, this digest forces us to completely reevaluate the boundaries of pattern recognition. Well, we historically believed that certain domains, like diagnosing a super rare illness or composing a symphony, require this uniquely human spark, right?
Like a soul, or at least, decades of lived experience.
Exactly. But the data in this digest suggests that what we call intuition or genius, it might actually just be highly complex hyperdimensional pattern matching.
Okay, let's unpack this, starting with the physical topography of the human body.
Let's do it.
So the first major takeaway from the March Digest centers on this massive breakthrough in the healthcare sector. Researchers unveiled an AI system specifically engineered to analyze medical images.
Primarily X-rays and MRIs, right?
Right. And the headline finding, the thing that's making waves, is that this system is currently outperforming human radiologists in detecting the early localized signs of certain critical conditions.
Yeah, but I think the phrasing there, the word outperforming, it really requires a mechanistic breakdown to understand what's actually happening.
Fair point. Walk us through it.
So a human radiologist spends over a decade training their biological eyes to differentiate between, say, a benign shadow and a malignant cluster on a grayscale image.
Which is incredibly difficult.
It's massively difficult, but the human eye has a literal biological limitation in how it perceives contrast and edge definition.
Right. There's only so much we can actually see.
Exactly. The AI, on the other hand, it doesn't look at a picture the way we do. It ingests the MRI as a massive matrix of numeric values.
Okay.
It evaluates the probabilistic density of pixels against this historical dataset of millions of previous scans. So it's mapping a biological topography at a subpixel level.
So it's finding anomalies in the digital static that the human optic nerve it simply cannot process.
Precisely. It's seeing math, not a picture.
Which is huge because, learner, if you have ever lived in an under-resourced area or if you've ever sat in a waiting room for 3 weeks agonizing over scan results.
Oh, the worst feeling.
It really is. And it happens because there is only one specialist within 100 miles. So the ultimate bottleneck in modern medicine isn't always the treatment.
No, it's the human perception. It's the human bandwidth.
Exactly. It's like having a tireless, superpowered magnifying glass that has memorized every medical textbook ever written.
That's a great way to put it. And the source material highlights this exact democratization of expertise.
Right, because suddenly location doesn't matter as much.
Exactly. By routing preliminary diagnostic imaging through this subpixel mapping system, a rural clinic suddenly has the diagnostic acuity of a top-tier research hospital.
That's life-changing for so many people.
It really is. The AI operates continuously, clearing the backlog of routine scans and instantly flagging the high-risk numeric deviations for immediate human review. The sheer volume of reduced workload for medical professionals is just staggering.
But wait, this brings up a massive question.
There.
Because it feels like we are treating the radiologist like a human spell check in this scenario.
Huh. Yeah, I see where you're going with this.
Right. If the machine is routinely catching microscopic anomalies that the doctor's biological eyes literally cannot physically see, doesn't the doctor eventually just become a rotor stamp?
Right.
I mean, we are introducing an entity that is empirically better at the core mechanical task. But does this mean the human radiologist is going to be obsolete? Or are they just getting a massive digital upgrade?
What's fascinating here is the absolute collision between algorithmic evolution and static legal frameworks.
Okay, tell me more.
Well, the digest points out that this scenario triggers an unprecedented regulatory nightmare.
Because of the FDA?
Because of the FDA, the global medical boards, all of it. Medical regulation globally is built entirely around the concept of human accountability.
Right, malpractice.
Exactly. If a doctor misreads an MRI, there is a clear malpractice framework. We can depose the doctor. We can ask them what they saw and why they made their decision.
Yeah, you can put a human on a witness stand. You can't subpoena a neural network.
Precisely the issue. And furthermore, we are dealing with dynamic, self-updating models.
I mean, they learn as they go.
Right. The AI that diagnoses a patient on Tuesday might have updated its own internal weighting parameters based on thousands of new scans by Thursday.
Wow. So it's not even the same doctor, so to speak, 2 days later.
Exactly. So relying on AI in these highly sensitive fields forces regulatory bodies to figure out how to approve a black box.
A black box because we don't really know how it gets to the answer.
Right. The system's decision-making process, like the specific mathematical weights it assigns to a particular cluster of pixels to declare it, a tumor operates in a high-dimensional space that humans literally cannot conceptualize.
That is terrifying and amazing at the same time.
We are essentially building guardrails for a system whose fundamental logic we cannot fully translate.
Wow. Okay, so we have a system that maps the unseen biological patterns of a tumor operating in a mathematical space we can't even visualize.
Yep.
But, patterns aren't just physical. Emotions have patterns, too.
Oh, absolutely.
Like the rhythm of a jazz solo or the crescendo of a symphony. That is really just math trying to express joy or sorrow or tension.
That's a beautiful way to look at it.
Which brings us to the second major pillar in the digest. What happens when that exact same topographical mapping is pointed at a piano?
Yeah, the transition from the objective science of cellular decay to the highly subjective realm of human emotion, this is where the cultural friction really ignites.
For sure. Artists are freaking out.
They really are. The digest details an entirely new AI-driven music composition tool that is currently sending shockwaves through the creative arts.
Right, because this system, it studies thousands upon thousands of deep learning networks. It's basically ingesting centuries of human composition.
It's right down to the micro level.
Yeah. It breaks down a Chopin nocturne or a Coltrane solo into millions of data points.
It measures the exact microsecond pauses between notes, the mathematical frequency of a minor chord resolving into a major one.
The syncopation of a snare drum. All of it.
All of it. And then it generates original pieces across massive stylistic divides, from classical to jazz, that professional critics claim are totally indistinguishable from human-composed works.
Indistinguishable. That word is just heavy.
The word indistinguishable is the threshold that really shatters the traditional definition of art.
Especially with something like jazz.
Right. Jazz, as a genre, is famously built on improvisation, soul, and crucially in the moment, human imperfection.
It's reactionary.
Exactly. So for an algorithm to map the probability of an imperfect note and then deploy it perfectly within a generated composition to evoke a specific emotional response from a trained critic, the ground shifts beneath our feet.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, though. Because I have to push back on the terminology being used in the music industry right now on behalf of our listener.
Okay, push back. Let's hear it.
If a machine is just doing incredibly advanced musical math to replicate patterns, if I feed an algorithm a million sad songs and it reverse engineers the mathematical recipe for a human sigh and prints out sheet music that perfectly replicates that acoustic signature.
Right.
Can we genuinely call that creating? Is it art or is it just a highly sophisticated echo chamber of human genius?
Man, that raises such an important question.
Yeah.
And it captures the exact philosophical debate currently tearing the artistic community apart.
I can imagine.
The source material actually outlines two fiercely opposing camps on this.
Okay, who's in the first camp?
On one side, you have avant-garde composers and producers who view the system as a vital collaborative tool.
So they aren't threatened by it.
Not at all. They see it as an entirely new instrument that expands their own capabilities. It allows a composer to explore mathematical combinations of notes and polyrhythms they never would have conceived within a single human lifetime.
It's like the ultimate creative sandbox.
Exactly. You can prompt the system like, map the harmonic structure of a 19th century Russian symphony onto the rhythmic pacing of 1990s hip-hop, just to see what the math yields.
And often the math yields something incredibly compelling.
It really does. But then you have the opposing camp.
The traditionalists.
Right. And they fear the total erosion of the human touch. Because art has traditionally been understood as an expression of the human condition.
Like our shared understanding of mortality, pain, triumph.
Exactly. A machine does not fear death.
Right.
It does not feel heartbreak. So if a machine feels none of those things, but can perfectly simulate the auditory expression of them just by manipulating probabilistic weights, the fear is that the resulting art is intrinsically hollow.
Because it has memorized the entire dictionary of human emotion, but it has absolutely no concept of what the words actually mean.
Precisely. It doesn't know what sadness is. It just knows that a diminished seventh chord, played at 60 beats per minute, triggers a neurochemical response in a human listener.
Which is manipulative, almost.
Well, the art world is being forced to confront a major identity crisis because of it. We are no longer just adopting a new synthesizer or a digital audio workstation. We are fundamentally redefining creativity.
Which is a huge paradigm shift.
It is. Because if creativity is simply the novel combination of existing patterns, then the AI is undeniably a master creator.
Right.
But if creativity requires a soul, an organic lived experience behind the intent of the work, then these algorithmic symphonies are just brilliant acoustic illusions.
It definitely changes the experience of walking into a coffee shop and hearing a beautiful piano melody.
Doesn't it?
You find yourself wondering if a human being suffered over that progression, or if a server rack synthesized it in a microsecond to optimize the ambiance for maximum espresso sales.
And that underlying unease, that feeling of not quite knowing who or what is pulling the strings behind the experiences we consume, that is the perfect bridge to the final pillar covered in the March 29th Digest.
Yes. Okay, let's pivot to that, because we've seen AI predict human disease by analyzing our biological scans.
Right.
We've seen it replicate human art by analyzing our emotional cadences. Now, we are looking at how it predicts our behavior.
And this is where it affects absolutely everyone.
Oh, 100%. The Digest outlines an unprecedented rate of AI adoption across the corporate landscape, focusing entirely on the pattern-matching consumer.
Yeah, this is the commercial application of the exact same underlying technology. Businesses are moving far beyond using AI just to, automate supply chain logistics or flag accounting errors.
That's the old stuff.
Right. Now, they are deploying hyper-advanced models to analyze vast oceans of consumer data, predicting market trends and personalizing marketing strategies at a granular individual level.
So what does this all mean for you, learner? It means corporations now have a digital mind reader anticipating what you want before you even click.
Well, it is not quite acting as a mind reader. I think it is better to say it's acting as a digital meteorologist.
Oh, I like that. Explain that.
It isn't reading your thoughts. It is looking at the barometric pressure of your micro-behaviors.
Like what?
Like, it measures the friction of your thumbskull. It notes that you linger on a video about heavy woven blankets for 1.4 seconds longer than a video about shoes.
Wow. 1.4 seconds.
Yeah, just a slight pause. But it correlates that slight pause with a massive data set of other users and predicts that a high-stress spending storm is coming.
And the resulting boosts in efficiency and profitability for these corporations are just astronomical.
Because human behavior, much like the progression of cellular decay or the structure of a classical symphony, is ultimately governed by patterns.
We are creatures of habit.
We really are. We're driven by psychological triggers that we often don't even consciously recognize.
Right.
So when an algorithm has access to your location data, your purchase history, your browsing speed, and, let's not forget, the biometric feedback from your smartwatch.
Oh man, the smartwatch data.
Right. It can build a predictive model of your desires that is statistically more accurate than your own self-awareness.
So it means a company can preemptively market an anxiety relief supplement to you before you have even consciously registered that you are feeling stressed.
Exactly. The algorithm knows you are stressed because your typing cadence has become slightly erratic, matching the historical pattern of other stressed consumers.
But this brings up my biggest question for this section. Where is the line between a genuinely helpful, personalized shopping experience and a massive invasion of data privacy?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, defining and policing that exact line is the ethical and legal tightrope that every major business is currently trying to walk.
Because it's a very thin line.
Extremely thin. The digest explicitly details the complex, rapidly shifting legal landscapes emerging in response to this adoption. I mean, there's a profound difference between optimizing a warehouse route so a package arrives faster and psychologically profiling a consumer to guarantee a targeted sale based on a moment of emotional vulnerability.
Because the algorithm inherently lacks a moral compass.
None whatsoever.
It doesn't care if you actually need the anxiety supplement or if buying it will overdraft your bank account. It just has an objective function programmed by the corporation. Maximize engagement, maximize conversion, maximize profit.
And the digest makes it clear that balancing this rapid algorithmic innovation with corporate responsibility is now the single most crucial task for modern business leaders.
But the laws just aren't there yet, are they?
Not even close. The technology is moving at the speed of computation, while the legal frameworks surrounding data privacy and psychological manipulation are moving at the sluggish pace of bureaucratic committees.
So businesses are essentially operating in a vast legal gray area.
Yeah, they're relying on internal governance because external regulations are still trapped in the drafting phase. And the blowback from consumers is becoming instantaneous.
People are getting creeped out.
Absolutely. People like convenience, right? We enjoy when a streaming service recommends a film we genuinely end up loving.
Sure, it's helpful.
But the moment the curtain is pulled back and we realize the recommendation was generated by scraping thousands of intimate data points about our late-night habits, the convenience suddenly feels deeply predatory.
Yeah, nobody wants to feel like they're being hunted by a marketing algorithm.
Exactly. So maintaining consumer trust in an era where the corporation knows more about the consumer than the consumer knows about themselves, that is a monumental challenge.
Right.
If a company leverages these predictive models in a way that feels opaque or manipulative, the brand damage in today's hypersensitive market is severe and often irreversible.
Which really brings this entire deep dive full circle.
It does.
Whether we are examining the sterile environment of a hospital radiology department, the acoustic isolation of a recording studio, or the data-driven environment of a corporate boardroom, the underlying tension is identical.
We are witnessing the relentless collision of limitless algorithmic capability with deeply entrenched fragile human systems.
Right. The exact same underlying concept, advanced pattern recognition mapping hyperdimensional data, is simultaneously acting as our doctor, spotting the diseases we cannot see.
Yep.
It is acting as our composer, digesting the math of human emotion to generate flawless auditory art. And it is acting as our corporate strategist, reading the barometric pressure of our habits to shape the global marketplace.
It really is the ultimate general-purpose technology. It does not respect the traditional historical boundaries between scientific, creative, and commercial disciplines. The algorithm simply sees data waiting to be structured.
And for you, the learner, this is your shortcut to remaining well-informed. Recognizing that AI is not a monolith, but rather a flexible, infinitely scalable lens being applied to every single facet of human endeavor is how you successfully navigate the landscape.
Absolutely.
Whether you are a hardcore technologist or just someone trying to understand why your phone seems to know what you want before you do, understanding the shift in these three pillars, healthcare, art, and business, is critical.
Because the rules of these domains are being rewritten by the algorithms as we speak, fundamentally altering how we diagnose, how we create, and how we consume.
We've transitioned from the machine being a tool we use to the machine being an entity that understands us.
It's a profound shift. And as we conclude our analysis of this March 2026 digest, there is a lingering theme regarding regulation and trust that really requires our attention.
Leave us with a final thought.
Well, we are rapidly approaching a reality where AI operates with an acuity that is indistinguishable from or superior to human experts. Whether it is diagnosing a terminal illness without a doctor's input or analyzing massive troves of market data to execute a billion-dollar corporate decision without a CEO's final sign-off.
Right.
This raises an important question, perhaps the most critical one we face. As these systems become entirely autonomous, what happens when the algorithm makes a catastrophic mistake? If there's absolutely no human touch involved in the final decision, who ultimately takes the blame?
Wow, an incredibly heavy question to carry with you. Thank you for joining us on this custom deep dive, learner. Keep questioning the algorithm, stay intensely curious, and we'll catch you next time.